Hi, this is Rob from DMBAlmanac.com with This Week in Dave Matthews Band History. June 5th and June 7th, 1998, DMB played their first major stadium headlining shows at Foxborough and Giant Stadium, respectively. To celebrate, VH1 aired the first two songs of the Foxborough show live. Both shows featured Bela Fleck, The Lovely Ladies, and the first guest appearances from Butch Taylor, and a special appearance from Dave's South African friend, big voice Jack Lerole, on Penny Whistle. Highlights of the Giant Stadium show include the band playing one of Jack's songs, and both he and Bela guest on an epic 10-minute pig. We highly recommend tracking down tapes of these historic shows. You can find all the famous shows and the obscure gigs and check in on the current summer tour at dmbalmanac.com and follow us on Facebook and Threads to get daily updates with everything that happened that day in the band's history.
Have you ever stopped to think about the fans behind a band? What is it about the music that keeps fans coming back for more? Or is there more? My name is Renae Lipsmeyer, and I am the host of this podcast, The Space Between Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the fans of the Dave Matthews Band. Each week, a fellow DMB fan joins the show to discuss their journey with the band. Welcome to the Space Between Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Space Between Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the fans of a band that's been making music for over 30 years. If this is your very first time to listen to this podcast, we are going to talk about only one band. And everyone that comes on the show, which I've got almost 200 episodes now, which is very exciting. And I can't believe that somehow I've managed to do this. But we all talk about one band and our passion for them, what we've experienced with them, whether we're new fans or fans that have been around for a while. This band has been making music for over 30 years. I think we're in our 34th year right now. So every episode is a fan coming on to talk about their journey. And this one is just like that. We have a fan of the Dave Matthews Band on the show to tell us his journey with the band. Tell everybody first who you are, where you are, and something cool about you.
Very cliche. My name is Dave.
Be hard to remember.
Unfortunately, I was not named after the great Dave. But yeah, I live in Aberdeen, Scotland, born and raised. One thing I do, which, I don't really do much anymore, but I've done it since I was a kid, is I actually play a guitar.
Really?
Bit of a key story to how I came to find Dave. From playing guitar since I was about 6, 7 years old to, I did grades in school and stuff like that. And then I just never heard of the band until I was like mid-20s. So it was to go like 20 years playing the guitar and not hear this brilliant band and this great musician. It was kind of mind-boggling to me.
Right.
And obviously with that, I started to learn a little bit of Dave. But the biggest thing I learned was that he plays like some really unique chords, but it's like, I've been playing guitar 20 years and I didn't think of like putting my finger there, or putting my hand there. It gave me a kind of new lease for life with playing. But yeah, I played guitar for 20 plus years. I used to be in bands and stuff in my younger days. But yeah, like I said, I'm just really excited to be on and to be chatting about my favorite band.
Yeah, well, I'm excited. And I like to remind everyone that the Dave Matthews Band, yes, they officially started in the United States. However, they are a worldwide band. They travel the world putting on tours. And so their reach is global. And so we've had a few fans on the show from overseas. And so I'm excited to hear your experience because they were not as easily reachable for you when they first came out. Because, of course, traveling to Europe doesn't happen in the beginning of a band. You have to wait until you're established and have your name and things. And so I'm excited to hear your journey. So thank you so much for coming on the show today.
I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, so tell us, how was it that this seed was planted in your brain? Where did you first hear about them?
I think I'll go back to maybe I was about 20, 21 years old. I have a really good friend, one of my best friends. He lives in South Carolina. I've known him 13, 14 years now. We used to play Xbox together. I met him actually online playing a video game, and he went away for a month to tour Dave around the States.
Awesome.
And I had no one to play Xbox with. all my Facebook. And so he was telling me for maybe a year prior to that, he knew I played guitar. You should listen to Dave Matthews. You should listen to Dave Matthews. He is a huge Dave fan. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'll listen to them as you do. Brush them off. So he's away for a month, touring the band, going to all these different shows. He took his car, packed the car up, and drove 4 or 5 weeks around the country watching Dave.
That's awesome.
And my Facebook was just lighting up with videos from all the gigs, all the like campsites he was at, and the tailgates and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to listen to this band. My Facebook's full of it. I'm going to listen to this band. And within about 2-3 weeks, I was hooked. I was completely and utterly hooked on that. I could not get enough. I started from Under the Table and Dreaming, I think, was the first one I listened to. And then I moved on to, I think it was Come Tomorrow, which was the latest one at the time. And then obviously I went back to listen to some solo Dave. And then I was just kind of jumping around all these kind of different songs.
Yeah.
And then what it was I was about 3 months listening to the band, and I joined a Dave page because they invited me to join like a Dave Facebook fan page. And I put on it and I was like, look, I'm quite a new fan. And this was going good maybe 9 years ago now. I'm a new fan. These are my 5 favorite songs, but are there songs that I should be listening to? I posted that on a page. And that was my friend Rachel. She hit me up. Now she was like, I love Scotland. Scotland's amazing. She loved like Outlander and stuff like that. And she's a huge Dave fan. She's a massive, massive Dave fan.
Shout out Rachel. I know Rachel.
Yeah, Rachel.
That was the connection.
Yeah, Rachel is amazing. So she hit me up. She's like, I love Scotland and I love Dave. So we kind of hit off, and then especially during COVID and stuff, we used to talk a fair bit and listen to Dave and couch tour and all that kind of stuff. That was so much fun. Stay up on the Wednesday couch touring was.
Mm-hmm.
I always be drinking. I was on like a group of people drinking, watching the couch tour, but it was like 8 a.m. for me. But obviously, everyone's like off work and furloughed and stuff, and I'm just drunk at like 8 o'clock in the morning, loving the couch tour. So I watched tons of live shows during that period, and yeah, I got completely hooked. So yeah,
what was it about the sound? Like, you've played guitar forever, so you knew some things. What was it particularly about the band that hooked you?
I think it was kind of almost the bit of free flow. I think it was with when the brass sections come in, and it's quite freeing, and then Dave's quite almost angelic, like he can be very soft, but then I love angry Dave, so you get that kind of both ends of the spectrum. But it was literally just that kind of free flowing, almost jazzy kind of sound, but they took it to like a modernish tone. Do you know what I mean? And
I do.
And it was a little bit structured, but obviously you'll know by being live, it's just completely wild. And even when I was watching the live stuff and listening to the live tracks and stuff, you could hear that you were getting about like 18-minute Jimmy things and stuff like that.
Was that a surprise for you, as a new fan going obviously to the studio albums, because that's what we know, right? That's just what we know from other bands and things. So you get those and then you discover the live albums. And you're like, wait a second, that doesn't even sound like that.
Yeah, it was eye-opening for sure. And it was like, I would love to go to one of these gigs, because if they sound this good on the album, and then they break down the songs and they'll play these little interludes, and Jeff will get a section and Rashawn will get a section and all this kind of stuff, where it adds so much more to the listener. I was like, this band, they're something, they're different gravy. They're something else. Yeah, I was hooked. So when my buddy got back from his trip, I was like, bro, I've been jamming the band and I love them. They're awesome. And I still say to this day, I tell him every time, he changed my life, because I didn't know who they were before he left me and to tour the band. And him doing that was possibly the best thing he could have done, because it really did take a hold of me. To where now I've been to America twice to see them. I've been to Amsterdam to see them. I've been to Dublin. I mean, I'm going to the Gorge this year again.
You are. So, okay. So you've been to the Gorge before. So we'll get to that where you start traveling. So at what point do you, because it is a little bit harder to get to a show because of just where you are in the world. So what is your very first show, and like, how did you decide where it was going to be?
Well, my first time I was going to go was because my friend was telling me, Luke, I'll sort out the ticket and stuff. You just get You just get here.
Mhm.
And I'm like, okay, that's easy. So I booked it 2018, which was COVID year. So I lost my flight money on the. So I was planning to come to Gorge 2018, lost that because of everything just went
Yeah.
out the window. So when everything kind of started, I was so late in booking my ticket for 2019, which was my first show. The Gorge 2019 was my first
Awesome.
show.
Your
And
very first show to see the
very
Dave
first
Matthews
show.
Band live. What a venue to
Oh,
see them. And did you even know, like, did they tell you the Gorge or did you know about the Gorge?
I didn't know the Gorge at all. I just thought it was the name of the venue.
Sure.
I obviously looked it up online and thought, yeah, this looks, amazingly beautiful. But from being from such a cold country, I didn't really know how the weather would be. So
Sure.
my first year, I did I think I did, it was 12 or 13 days in America. I flew over to South Carolina, spent some time with my buddy and meet his folks and his kids and stuff like that. I've known them for over a decade. And then we all flew from Atlanta over to Seattle and rented an RV and drove to the Gorge. And it
Awesome.
was the best trip of my life, hands down.
Awesome.
So yeah, the Gorge was my first gig, and I made it the Gorge because it's the same dates every year. So
Hmm.
come February, it's quite late to wait for the dates and to try and plan a trip around, especially because I'm overseas and trying to put money aside and things and that. So I was like, at least that's the same weekend every year. I can book around that. I can give myself the ample time because I have to start saving the almost the November prior.
I cannot imagine the expense because it's expensive for me to get to the Gorge and I live
Yeah.
in the States.
Oh, I'll tell
So it's just a different ball game.
Yeah, it was. The flight's the killer. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. And then
Yeah.
you get the adrenaline from coming over there, and then the jet lag hits you 3 days later. Yes. So we came for 13 days, and we spent two of them in South Carolina. Flew to Seattle, rented an RV. We drove 4 or 5 hours from Seattle up to the Gorge, and yeah, it was the trip of a lifetime.
So beautiful
I
there.
like I'm lucky to in a degree because I've been to that venue. I've been there twice now, and I'm going again this year because I love it so much. But to experience the band there, which I think is the kind of holy grail for
It
Dave,
is. Yeah.
Dave shows, I feel extremely lucky, and I've got a great crew. I met my whole crew there, which there's about 15, 16 of us, some of which who literally were over in Scotland about 5 weeks ago just to spend some time with me, which
Well,
was
that's
amazing.
awesome.
Yeah, amazing.
Lifelong friends that you can meet
Oh,
through Dave. But
forever.
so going to the Gorge as your first show, and for those of you that are listening that don't know about the Gorge, so the Gorge is in the state of Washington in the United States. It is really in the middle of nowhere. Like you
Yeah,
leave Seattle and you take off and you you just go to the furthest point of nowhere you can get. And when you get there, you go a little bit further and that's where the Gorge is. And so you have
end
to
of the
be
world.
prepared. You have to have your food planned, have your camping or housing situated. It's
Yeah,
once you get in there, you don't leave, or
you know,
most people don't leave. And
yeah,
so for the Gorge, you're kind of initiated into not only the music because it's your very first show, but the community because the
yeah,
Gorge is one of those venues where you're going to stay for a couple of days. You're going to get to know the other fans. You're probably going to be in a tent or in an RV or something with these people. And so you grow close quickly. So, what was that like for you to not only it be your very first show live, but also to have thousands of people around you? Was it overwhelming or was it just right?
I was kind of taking it, I was kind of being on my best behavior, being like a foreigner in a
Yeah. Yeah.
I wasn't getting too crazy, being very respectful. The Congo line on the Thursday night kind of was like an eye opener. That was like, whoa, okay, we're dealing with some pretty party people, which was
Yeah.
which was amazing. It was a great mood settler. We've kind of got all ages in our crew. I'm probably one of the youngest, all the way stemming up to mid 60s.
Yeah.
So there's that kind of little bit of party, a little bit of, gentle side of our crew, which was really nice to kind of keep it almost tame.
Right.
So yeah, like you said, it's in the middle of nowhere. You got to be prepared for your, like you said, food. It's really hot. It's super hot. I'm from a dry country, so the dryness didn't bother me too much. From my friend in South Carolina, it's very humid there.
It is.
So he was like, "It's dry," and I'm like, "I'll be the judge of that." So yeah, it was. So that the dryness didn't really bother me too much, but the heat was quite extreme.
Just never know what the weather is going to be at the Gorge because I've only been once and it was 2023, but it was cold. It was so you just
Right.
never know, and you have to be prepared for both because
Yeah,
again, you
for
can't
sure.
leave.
Yeah, so I made sure, like, we brought plenty of hoodies and jeans and stuff like that just in case.
Yeah.
When the 2 years I was there, I was 20, was it 2020? I think it was 2020 because 2019 was the year that, um, was it Carter got COVID?
So COVID was 2020, the first year. Then so they started tour back again summer of 2021,
Right.
and then I don't know if it was that first year or the second year because I don't.
I mean, the show
It's
went on anyway. I remember
yeah.
watching the
Oh yeah,
show.
because Buddy.
And they were
Yeah,
amazing, by the way. They were absolutely amazing. I'm sure a couple of band members got ill, and they still played, and it was amazing. I came the year after that, so it might have been 2021.
it's like it all gets blurry at some
Oh, it
point.
does. It does. I think it's 2021 and 2022 back to back. I went, and yeah, we missed last year because they did the European tour. So
That's
I'm
right.
like, I want to go to European tour. I'll leave the Gorge for 1 year. Regretted it deeply. Not that I love seeing the band in different countries. I've
Of
seen
course.
the opener in Amsterdam, which was amazing. I'd never been to Amsterdam to Holland before, so that was another
Wow.
tick for me.
Yes.
And to see the opening of the European tour was amazing. And then 3-4 weeks later, we met up with friends in Dublin. Went to the Dublin show. So yeah, that was really good. Never been to Ireland before either. So you would think because I'm so close, I'd go, but
I mean, I don't know. People say when you get, and I have such a weird, like, I don't know. I've never been there, but people say once you go, you can like country hop really easily. I don't know if
a
that's
little bit.
true, but
Yeah, a little bit. You can. I mean, you can drive to England. It does take about 7-8 hours, but you can drive there. It's about an hour's flight to Dublin, an hour's flight to London.
and
It's
you
like an
had never
hour.
been.
I'd never been before 2023. I'd never been
Yeah.
to
So the Dave Matthews Band, I like to say that the Dave Matthews Band is
Dublin. Oh, they
my
definitely did.
travel agent, and it sounds like it's doing the same thing to you. Like
Oh,
Dave tells you where to go.
yeah, well, I was looking for the dates because I think the last time he came to Scotland was 2015, if I
Oh
remember.
wow.
So that's almost 10 years ago. And he played Glasgow, which is a big city here. And in the O2 Arena, there was about 3,000 people that went in this like huge arena. So I don't blame him for not coming to Scotland because the last time he came, hey, a day's here in 10 years, there might be a lot more fans. As soon as I seen the dates, there was a couple in London, 2 nights in London, Manchester, Dublin was the kind of only UK ones he did. I was like, Dublin for sure.
Yeah.
Dublin for sure. Sounds like it's a great place, amazing people, quite expensive,
Was
Dublin.
it?
But I think that's just being a capital city. I think
Hmm.
it's home of Guinness and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a great show. Poster
Do you
was
feel like they perform different at different venues now that you've seen them at a couple of different
there's a
places?
different energy. I
Yeah.
would say. In America, it's better.
You
And that's
like
my
you
opinion.
like the
Oh, I love
energy.
the American atmosphere,
Okay.
100%. Because I think in the UK and in Holland, especially because there were maybe because I mean I've only been to the Gorge. In America where it's
Mhm.
you're on the lawn and you're dancing with your crew and your friends and you've got all this room and it's so hot and beautiful. Where in Dublin and Amsterdam it was venues and you're very kind of much contained.
Yeah.
You don't want to be rude and disrespectful, but you also want to get your groove on. So it was. I think there's definitely a much freer and a more of a. It's kind of hard to explain the word. A more of a life in an outdoor, especially in America, because I think there's obviously more fans and more diehard fans who go hard at the shows.
It's amazing the energy with
It's,
most of the fans, I would say the bulk of the fans, 40s, 50s, 60-year-olds,
yeah,
and just, out there like a bunch of 20-year-olds. Just we're
yeah.
living our best life at a Dave show.
That's it. I mean, like I said, the energy is exactly the word. Shows in America are out of this world, and that's what hooks me every year to see that. Like I said, I've been to 6 shows at the Gorge now, and almost like everyone gets better.
It's
Everyone gets better.
true.
I heard the violin with the band for the first time at the last Gorge I was at, which hearing it live, I was almost cutting up. I was like, this is everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is such a complete sound. It sounds so right. No pun intended.
Yeah. Pun intended.
Pun intended, right. Um, so yeah, it just felt every show got better and better the times I've been there. To take nothing away from Amsterdam and Dublin, they were great shows, but I think the crowd were just a little bit more contained in those kind of like indoor venues and arenas. I did get my favorite song in Dublin, which I had chased for 8 shows and didn't get.
What is it?
Idea of You. Is
Oh my goodness. It is so good and so underplayed.
It really is. It's an undersung song.
Yes, and it's so beautiful. I
It's
don't
amazing.
know. It's
Yeah.
so beautiful.
I thought for sure, because we used to do, we were doing like Name the Opener and stuff when we were at the Gorge and stuff like that. I got 2 out of the 6 shows right.
Dang, that's pretty good odds.
Not too bad. Not too
No.
bad. But then I was like, surely, I didn't get it the first year. I was like, surely I'll get Idea of You, in a 3-day Gorge, and I did it. So I was like, hey, I'm not hating the band. I love all the songs.
Of course.
I love all the jams. I love all the covers and stuff that they do. But to get that in Dublin, I was over the moon.
I would have really I would like to see a photograph of your face at that moment when you knew when it was about to happen.
I'll definitely get one sent to you because there's a couple. So yeah, like I said, it's been such a crazy journey. Then it's such a big part of my life now. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's what the biggest thing is for 10 years, 12 years ago, I didn't even hear of Dave. To them being my favorite band and a band I will travel the world to see.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, and now that you found them, I like to remind people that no matter when you find them, it's a great time to find this band and even in your journey, you started out listening to different ones. You had so much that you could go back and listen to when you found them.
I was definitely lucky to find them at that time because I think it was the 4th or 5th album that I found them on. I found them not long after they released Come Tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I had all this backlog and all these live tracks and all these live shows on YouTube and everything.
So much homework.
I was lucky in a way to get all that and to almost feed off of it.
Mm-hmm.
And even now, over here, I'm like, people ask me, what's your favorite band? I'm like, Dave Matthews Band. And they kind of don't even know.
Well, of course, yeah. I find that here though too.
Yeah, for sure.
They're the most. Someone said that the other day on an episode. They said something like they're the most popular band that you've never heard of before, and I was like, that is right.
Probably be a good statement. Yeah, I think they sold more tickets than touring tickets than most bands in history. So you're probably a good analogy there. To be fair,
it's wild how many people haven't heard of them.
People always tell me oh, what songs should you listen to it? I'm like, once you find that song, you find it for yourself and you'll find it. It will take hold of you. You know what I mean? And it will take you to places that, you didn't think you would ever go with music. And that's what it kind of did for me. It gave me that kind of new lease of life. Do you know what I mean? A new sound to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like I said, it was a really, really great story. And like I said, Rachel, we used to stay up and we used to bounce songs back off each other and, songs like Mother Sister or Mother Father, sorry. And
I wish they would sing that. I don't think they've ever.
Almost these kind of niche songs that you never hear.
Right.
I've never heard this played.
Yes.
And it would be on repeat for 3 weeks. And like I said, my Spotify now is legit, Dave. It is just thrown in with heaps of live tracks and album versions and everything. And it's just on shuffle because I don't think there's a song that I don't like or I would tolerate to listen to.
Right.
So yeah, it's just been a crazy journey.
It has. I mean, it has been for all of us, just the turns that this band has taken. And again, if you don't know anything about the history of this band, if you're listening to this and you're like, what are y'all talking about? Obviously, with a span of 34 years, there's a lot of history in this band. And with history comes changes in band members, changes in instruments that are being played on stage, songs that are only played sometimes And people, that is a topic of conversation that, you and I both love to talk about, the songs that we want to hear, the songs that we have heard, what is our chasers. And there's never been a negative about the Dave Matthews Band, and this is not a negative, but if I could think of one thing that frustrates me but doesn't, they have such a large catalog because they've been performing and making music for so long that there will be no year that you will hear everything. There's not enough time.
Yeah, that's right.
For them to sing it all. And that's unfortunate because there are so many wonderful things that we'll just never hear. And for whatever reason, the band chooses to sing what they sing. And I'm so grateful that they're even still playing. So I have no objections to whatever like I say, they could sing the phone book or the dictionary and I would be right there.
Page to page and I would still dance and
exactly. Because they would have a unique way to do it. But, that is some frustrations in a lot of fans' life is I would love to hear this and just never getting that. But
I go back to my idea of you, been to 6 shows at the Gorge and never got it. And I'm like, and he played it. I think he played it in Bend last year I went. The show
right before.
I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get it. I'm saying to myself, I'm saying to my buddy, I'm gonna get it, bro. I'm gonna get it.
It seems so personal when he gives it to the crowd right before you, and you're like, "Fuck, I've been asking for this," and then
definitely. So I was like, I'm definitely getting it, But it didn't come. Like I said, I think I was quite glad that I did choose that Dublin show because there was a couple of songs like I was like, I can't remember the last time or if I've heard that live, or I might have not even heard that from like the Friday night of my first Gorge, which was 5 years ago, and I got it. Dublin and I got idea of you and I was like, that was a killer show for me personally to take off songs that I've maybe only heard live once, and I mean of course they've got to do the whole new album and throw songs in from that, and which is fine. I'm happy with that, but I was like, that was a killer show for me personally because I haven't seen that in 5 years, or I hadn't heard that song live before, or so that was really good as well, and I was gutted that I didn't get the Dublin poster. I was so gutted. But yeah,
you can always get one. They're always out there.
Have tabs on some online. I'm just kind of worried about the shipping over here. So what I might do is like send it to my buddy, and next time I'll pick it up when I'm over there. But I have seen a couple that are quite reasonable. So
Now, is the poster game something that you jumped into right away, or was that just kind of reserved for home shows?
I kind of was like, it's something nice to take home from the shows and frame and stuff like that. And it's like something to remember by. I mean, we got all our ticket stubs and stuff like that. So I've keep them in my little Dave book that I've got all straight.
Hey, I love that you have a Dave book.
I do. I got the book that he wrote, and it's signed by Dave. It's number 9. Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool memorabilia that sent me over the years. My favorite is probably up here that Rachel gave me, which I've had for a good few years now, which is my little
South Park characters made from they're each a South Park character. That's awesome.
It was. I got number 41 out of 50 as well, which is amazing. And this is probably one of my favorite things. But that's been like that since the day I got it.
I love that.
And there was 4 other. There was Butch and Boyd and Warren Hayes, and I think there was another one, but I kind of just wanted the band as they are now.
Currently is. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I do really like that.
So I have to hear your thoughts, and I love, again, this is one of those taboo topics that like maybe we don't talk about, but also who says we can't talk about history? So let's talk about 1991 through 2000. Let's just kind of that decade, if you will. The band sounded very different. They were new. There were some people in the band at that time who are no longer in the band. A lot of my personal opinion is that I have enjoyed so much starting from the beginning. Not that I was 11 in 91, so I didn't listen to them when they came out. It was much later. But to go back and listen to shows from 91, 92, 93, 94, and then just the progression of the band and how much better they have gotten with time.
Yeah.
And my personal beliefs is that they've never sounded better than they do now. Now, everyone has their different thoughts on that. What are your thoughts on the decades, if you will, of the band? Because each decade has been so different for them.
For sure. I don't get me wrong. I think a lot of the violin did hit me when I first started
Yeah,
listening to him. I thought that's so different and it's adding something so unique, and you never hear that, especially
right.
kind of in new music or new artists and things today. I thought that was such a almost like I said, it's kind of taking this kind of rock and pop and jazz and all these kind of genres and even classical to a degree and throwing it in, and it was a huge part. I agree a little bit like you. I love how the band sound now.
You're so good.
They're so they're so tight, and they're so talented as well. It's taken nothing away from the influence that Boyd has on had
Oh
on the
God,
music
never.
brand and things.
And of course, we
I
love
love,
Leroy.
yeah,
I'd love to still have him, but I love
yeah.
Jeff too. I mean, that's
The shows, and I love that. I love you can see him, even Rashawn as well. Rashawn's I feel is kind of a
love
little bit
him.
underappreciated of what and the effort he puts in at the shows is
Yeah,
unbelievable.
yeah,
Roy as well, he was such a big sound. And I think Jeff's done really well in taking bits from it, but kind of almost carbon copying it,
oh
um,
yeah,
and keeping Leroy's sound to what it is
right.
because he was so unique and such a big part of the band. And it's such a big part to Dave as well when you hear him talk about him as well. He was a huge influence and part of the band.
Mm.
I've got to admit, I like how, I love Buddy on the piano and the keyboard and stuff like that. I think that's amazing. And obviously, Carter's just got this infectious smile every show and every
He
time you see him.
does.
But I mean, if you go back to like Crash and Under the Table and things like that, it's a very distinct sound.
Mm.
And it built the building blocks into to what they sound now, hands down.
Oh yes.
And like I said, I used to love watching Boyd go absolutely ham on the violin and live shows and things like that. It was just different for me. It was
Right.
something I'd never heard before and never couldn't even think about that would sound good with this, and it completely blew me away. And even my last show at the Gorge, hearing the violin live with the band was such a big part of who they are. It was from going back to 91 to like every day from it was a huge part of their sound, so to hear that
Mhm.
live was an unbelievable sound, and I was almost cut up with it. I was like, this is this is what it is, what I mean, and
Yeah.
it was crazy. This is where it started, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that was a huge part of, and again, I feel lucky because not a lot of people, especially kind of newer fans, will get that kind of sound. um,
Right.
it was so I feel very lucky that I got to experience that.
I'd like to encourage, I don't meet a lot of brand new fans. I don't. I want to. I would
Yeah,
love to have a whole classroom of people and me tell them more about the Dave Matthews Band, but that's not happened yet. But I like to encourage people that do not know a lot about them to really do their due diligence and go back and
yeah,
I don't want to say compare, but like contrast, like this is how they started out. This is how they sound now. And here's how they got here. Here are the things that had to happen. But now that they are with Buddy, bringing back the violin sound from time to time
yeah,
electronically through the keyboard, I think that's such a nod to the fans and such a nod to the past. Like, we know that you guys loved that sound and we loved it too, but that's our past. And,
yeah,
I love how they nod to that and they appreciate it just as much as we did. And last year, 2024, when the band was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Boyd Tinsley was all in that. No, unfortunately, he did not make it. And there are various different reasons
yeah,
probably why that we'll never know. But they, with all intentions, made sure that his name was very present in every conversation and that he was given credit because
yeah.
so much of the beginning of that band is just him, and so many people recognize him.
Like so, that's a good touch by Dave as well because it's probably something he didn't have to do, but he knew himself that he was a huge part of the sound. For about a decade plus.
Yeah.
And when you do go back to listen to those older albums, you get that kind of very strong, like almost like origin of this is the origin of the sound. And like you said, bringing Buddy on with the synths and that almost electronic violin sound is a great blend of obviously that modernization that he brings, but by going back and grabbing that sound and bringing it in, especially live, because you do hear a lot of it. He's a fantastic singer. He's a fantastic singer, buddy.
So good.
He's an amazing singer. He's got one of those kind of infectious smiles like Carter does, and he has got jazz hands.
He really does. He really does. I could just watch him. It's hard with this band, especially if you can see them. Now, there are a lot of shows I've been to where I just could not see them except for on the screen. But like, if you're close enough to see them, it's hard to pick which one to watch because they're all, well, I would say that Rashawn is probably the least of like the active on stage, but he's fun to watch either way because he's always laughing, cutting up, talking. Like, you can tell he's saying something crazy. But everyone else, like Buddy, so fun to watch. He's all over the place. He's throwing that energy back out to the crowd. He's receiving, you could tell he's having a good time that night. Dave is the same way. Tim, he's fun to watch just because like he's a master at what he does. And the sounds that he can send out. I'm like, this dude is a fucking alien, as so many people like say. And where's he from? Where is he from? He's so good. But like Carter, I like to watch all of them. They all have very individual things that they do that are very hard not to watch. People want to say, oh, well, you just watch Dave. And I'm like, dude, I'm not saying don't, because I love watching Dave all of the time. But I have to remind myself, like, girl, stop watching him. Get over there. Look at this man, because he is blowing it up over there. And so it's hard. Especially it's very hard.
When I was watching some of the Mexico shows when it's just Dave and Tim, you realize just how great a guitar player Tim Reynolds is. And he does sounds on the guitar that he makes it weep. It's crazy.
Oh yes, that was the perfect word.
Unbelievable guitar player. And again, someone I didn't know until I found the band.
Right.
For playing guitar for such a long time, and he is a master. Like you're saying, he's almost alien to the sounds that he can produce, and not only that, it's like all these little scratches and little nuances that he hits and stuff. That is unbelievable. I love watching Tim Reynolds, especially TR3 as well. I love listening to TR3 because he's just such a wizard when it comes to his craft. It's unbelievable.
He really is.
Again, I don't know what you're saying, because I mean, in Dublin, we were quite close to Dave. We were quite close to the front, and you're very much focused on Dave, but then you would look to the left and Carter just sitting there like this almost Cheshire cat smile. I was really killing it and doing all the like backing vocals, and you're like, wow, this is just. And Stefan's quite laid back, and he's quite cool and jiving and stuff like that. You've got to like take a little moment just to appreciate kind of everyone's input, because it really does paint this huge picture of how good they are and how hard they worked to get this kind of cohesion together. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it's unbelievable.
I know it's been a lot of work, and they're geniuses, they're masters of their trades, but it's taken years and years. Not that they weren't good in the beginning, they were, but it's taken years to get where they are, and so they have really done the work to make this happen.
And I think that's a testament as well to, like, because they tour every year, they rock out all these stadiums and amphitheaters, and every year they're selling out tickets that huge amount of people come. People see just how hard they work, and to get these shows to where they are, and where to get people like, oh, I'm going to go to the next show in 3 days time, and I'm going to go to and it's wild. And then not a lot of musicians have that kind of pool,
right?
Which has got to be appreciated.
Yeah, I had never heard of people traveling for music like they do for the Dave Matthews Band until I found the Dave Matthews Band. Is that something that you had seen ever before in your life, before the Dave Matthews Band?
It's not as prominent. I've heard of bands, of people like, I've got quite a lot of friends who like their kind of like heavy metal stuff, so they'll go and see Slipknot or something in Glasgow, and then they'll be like, oh, and they're also playing Manchester, I'm going to go down there as well. But to have, like I said, my friend Matt, he traveled literally around America following the band, and went to like 9 or 10 different shows or something like that. And it was,
Mark, you need to be on the show.
I'll hit him up. I'll definitely hit him up for sure, because I bet he would love it. He's been to so many shows. He's got a poster collection that would fear you. And like I said, he was the kind of like hook for me that got me into them, because he was on at me for so long, um, to listen to them, and I'm like, yeah, I'll listen to them, as you do. And it wasn't until he went away, and I was just bored. I was like on my Facebook, just like, oh my god, dude, this. And as soon as I heard like a couple of live videos, I was like, wow, that is completely different. It's
Yeah.
completely different to what I've heard, to what I would normally listen to. And yeah, it hook, lined, and synced me completely. And yeah, like I said, it's now almost like my kind of ritual every year to come over there and spend some time with these lovely people who have got this great memories with and great connections with, and to listen to our favorite band.
That's amazing.
It's
There's such a sense of community around the Dave Matthews Band. And of course, like we talked about earlier, going to the Gorge, you saw that sense of community. And there are so many Facebook groups and other forms of social media where Dave Matthews Band has such a big presence.
yeah.
And a lot of fans say this, have the groups really helped you connect with the band and feeling like, because we learn so much from each other. I love to hear someone else tell me their Dave story, obviously, but I think other people enjoy that too. Actually, I know that because they listen to this podcast.
Yeah,
They
great
love
save.
hearing other people's Dave story.
Yeah.
And it's really cool, the connections that are made. I've made friends from this music that I'll have in my life forever. And that sounds so foreign to talk to other people just in your community, wherever you live, and go, I've got friends all over that I've met at a concert. And they're like, well, you just go and talk to people, strangers at concerts?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
We're there for one goal. I mean, for years, just this like gaming with them from like a teenager, but now I've got friends in North Carolina. I've got friends in Indianapolis. I've got, I was speaking to a guy in Brazil. I was like chatting to a guy in Brazil who loved Dave.
Yes.
During COVID, I was like FaceTiming him and stuff. I've got friends in Michigan. I've got it's and because we're all there for one reason. There's this
Mhm.
common denominator, which I think's the key to making friends. Is if you can find
Yes.
a common denominator with someone, then it makes it 10 times more easy to be open and to kind of get that like little uh that little repertoire kind of going.
Yes.
And it's weird because I've also got a friend Tom who I'm trying to remember where Tom's from, but he's a huge Dave fan, and I never arranged to meet up with Tom. Yeah, I always bump into him.
No,
Always, I think every year at the Gorge, I've seen him, and I'm like, Tom.
you have to let me know what Tom's last name is later. I mean, let me know later, because there was a Tom that was on the show. He goes to the Gorge all the time.
Go
There's
on
a million
Facebook.
Toms, but
Yeah, for sure. But it's one of these things where it's like, he knows that I'll be there, and I know he'll be there. But it's like he's got his crew, and we've got our crew, and I'll just see him, and I'll be like, "What's up, buddy?" You know what I mean?
it's crazy how it
Can't
all
believe you
works.
came over here again. I'm like, there's nowhere else I'd rather be. You know what I mean?
It's crazy,
It's
but also it's beautiful.
you've got this amazing community of people that they're there to just enjoy the music and enjoy themselves as well.
Right,
I
right.
mean, Rachel's been harping on at me to go to Indy, to go to
Yes, Deer Creek.
Deer
Yes.
Creek, and I'm like, I'll definitely go to Deer Creek. I promise you, I'll come.
You have not lived until you've gone to a Dave concert in the middle of a cornfield.
Well, there you go. There you
You
go.
have to do it.
Like one's almost in like the middle of the desert, and the other one's in the middle of the cornfield.
I mean, that's kind of the cool thing. And like what I have enjoyed about traveling all over the States is because the States are just like so completely different from one to the other.
Yeah.
And the band has a good sense of like where to take us. They're always just so good at like, let's go here. And it's always wonderful. But you question it at first. You're like, wait a second, what? We're going where? I mean, what? Okay, that's what Dave says we're doing. We're going. And then you get there and it's delightful. Places you would have never probably gone before otherwise.
So Rachel, enjoy this. Rach, I promise I'll come to Deer Creek. I promise.
She has it in video now, so
Yeah,
you can't.
can't go back on that. I will do Deer Creek. Spark's also one I want to do.
Yeah.
It's almost like I kind of want to get the kind of 2 days, 3 day
Oh
concert,
yeah.
because obviously I'm flying over there.
Right.
It's a 14 and a half hour flight.
Jesus.
and
What do
it's
you
no.
do for 14 and a half hours? I've never been on a flight longer than 3 hours. So
You try and
14
sleep.
hours, just like load up with medicine and be like, I'm about to knock myself the
You're
fuck
trying.
out.
I
That's
remember the first year. Obviously, I hadn't flown continental until my first year coming over there. I remember we had this three-seater. We had a space in the middle, so one was lying down and I was sitting up, and I just couldn't sleep. And I think the flight stewardess came up to me about 3 or 4 hours into the flight, and she tapped me on the shoulder and she was like, "That four seats in the middle are free, by the way." And I'm like, "Bye."
yes,
So
that's
that
awesome.
was pleasurable. What I've learned is the flight over is not too bad, but the flight home is packed. It's there's no empty seats, and it is a long flight. Don't get me wrong. And then obviously, depending on where you're going, I think Seattle's 7 hours or 8 hours
Jesus.
behind us. So like I'll be in the air for like 16 hours. I'll leave at like 11 a.m. and when I drop in, it's like 2 p.m. You know what I mean? And I've kind of spent
Yeah.
the whole
Yeah.
day in
Way
the
too
air,
long.
and then the adrenaline hits, and I'm up till like
Of course.
midnight, and it's.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the country, I love the people. I mean, in Scotland, what I told my friends is we're very confrontational people, in my opinion. That's purely my opinion. Where every single person I've met, whether it be a Dave show or even in a supermarket, or everyone's really respectful and nice and polite with manners, and it's such a breath of fresh air from not having people like almost grunt at you. And you walk down the street, and then when you're in stores and things, like I said, I love the country, I love the people, I love the band, I love the sound. It's definitely. I mean, I would live there. I've said that many a time. I would live in America for sure. But
I'm glad to hear that. I never get to
I'm
hear
talking
that
about a
perspective.
country that's got like 8 million people in it, and there's probably near 300, 400 million people in America. So
Yeah.
yeah, I just love the feel of it. And especially the first time at the Gorge when you crest that hill,
Yeah.
I'll never ever forget that. And it was like my buddy's telling me for so long, like you're gonna love it. It's amazing. It's beautiful. But until you see it, it takes your breath away. It really does take your breath away.
And pictures, there's no picture in this world that can do it justice.
No, you're right. It literally takes your breath away, and you're like, I'm gonna be here, you know, 3 days. And like I said, it's almost like home. It's like a second home now for our
Yeah.
crew because I think my buddy tries to go every single year. He's taking new people there that Americans obviously that know of Dave, but
Yes.
haven't been huge Dave fans. I think he'd taken two of our friends last year for their first ever Gorge, and they're like, "Yeah, I would do this every year."
Wow.
This was the best gig, the best amphitheater, the best show I've ever been to. And some of it's not even their style of music. It's a lot of them are maybe into rap or into hip hop or stuff like that, and they still are like, Dave put on the best show I've ever seen,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is just a testament to what they do
It really
and the
is.
effect they have on people because it is infectious and it grabs hold of you. Do you know what I mean? It really
Yeah.
does.
It does. It's amazing. I was talking about this the other day with someone, how amazing it is that I feel like, and I can, I'm going to speak as an American right now. I feel like, because that's what I am, there's such a division in America between what feels like everyone now. And I kind of feel like the same way that you feel about your country. I feel like everyone is just yelling at everyone right now. And it's so right now.
Yeah.
And there are reasons. But what I find absolutely beautiful is that you could take 10,000 people or whatever the venue size is and put all of those people in there to listen to a Dave Matthews Band show. And all of those things go away.
They're gone.
They go away. We're not talking about any controversial, anything that someone could have another opinion about. We're focusing on the fellowship around the Dave Matthews Band, the people there. It is a happy atmosphere. People don't bring their burdens there to share them. It really is such an uplifting thing. And it's something that I think is so rare to find now. And now, are there assholes? there are assholes everywhere. Okay.
Everywhere. Yeah, you're gonna
You
get them
can't get rid of
everywhere.
them.
100%.
But for the most part, there is that sense of community, the sense of belonging, even if it is your first time. And even more so if it's your first time. If people hear that it's your first show, you will be just rallied around and they will want to tell you everything.
When you're down and, when you're
Yes.
tired or things like that, and they'll point you in the right direction and be like, well, they'll tell you, like, there was even like my first year, I had a couple of songs I had never even heard of. And I was like, they're like, oh, this is this song. I'm like, right. Okay. I've maybe seen it, but it's not one that's like registered in my brain. So the community, I've got to say, is they're so passionate. And like you said, it's like every problem disappears for a couple of hours. And
Yeah.
look, don't get me wrong. I appreciate that America is this kind of almost whirlwind that goes on, and it's. I mean, I have no idea how I would kind of maybe feel about it. I can only go by an outsider perspective.
Sure.
But like it's. I'm not going to say it almost put me off, because it didn't put me off coming. But I would, like you said, it's a great escape for go to a Dave show, even if you've never been to one before. You go there, and everyone there is just so passionate about the music, so passionate about the band, that whatever's going on will be null and void for the next 2 to 3 hours.
That's right. And at the Gorge, a couple of days. You get days at the Gorge of that.
That's
which is even lovelier. And another beautiful reason to go to the Gorge, or to an extended weekend like Deer Creek, where it's 2 nights.
Yeah.
The band has its venues where that they hit every year, and they're always a 2 or 3 night. And that really is like a better value if you're going to go somewhere, to know that you can get more than one show.
Yeah,
because at the Gorge, they don't repeat songs. At SPAC, they don't repeat songs. And so you're getting so much more. And that's where you can get, now, not all of the time, but most of the time you can get those harder to catch songs, because they just have more time to sing through their catalog.
That's right. And they'll, like I said, at the Gorge, they will throw in a couple of covers. Since I've been following them, they've changed almost kind of every year. They've added like a new one like every year. Like they did Bowie and stuff like that, which was amazing. Do you know what I mean? And I'm like, this is David Bowie. This is great.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then we got Watchtower with the woman Celeste, which was fantastic. She was unbelievable. So they also get these like special guests that come out most of the time as well, which is just, like I said, it gives us life. It gives a freshness. It really is, like you said, that it's almost like an escape for, and everyone there is there for one whole reason: to enjoy themselves, to love the band, to love the music they either grew up listening to, or the music they're passionate about now. And especially for me, like I said, I kind of pick those shows because I know the Gorge is the same weekend every year. So I book it and I save for that weekend of the year. I've already pre-booked my vacation days from work for next year, because I know that like 2-week period, that's where I want to be.
Right.
I want to be there.
Yeah.
And especially missing it last year when it came around, because I was super happy. I got the European tour opener. I went to Dublin. I was super happy seeing them in different countries. But when it came around to Labor Day weekend, I was gutted. I was like, I should be there.
I know. I almost have to stay off social media during that weekend, because I cannot face the fact that like everyone's posting and I'm not there, and it's just like it's not happening.
But then you did Mexico though,
Mexico was great. Yeah,
amazing. That's definitely a bucket list.
Yeah, for sure. Everyone should try. Those are the 2 venues that are like polar opposites. You go out into the middle of nowhere and you go camping and you kind of rough it, if you will. Or you can go to VIP Mexico and people will bring you drinks while you're standing there. Like, it's just so completely different, but all beautiful in their own very different ways.
For sure.
So 2025, they, of course, have come out with saying who their guests will be at the Gorge. I'm so excited for some of the people that they are pulling in, some of the biggest bands, one of them being Goose. I don't know if you follow them or have heard of them, but they are picking up speed and well on their way into the homes of everyone. And so they will be at the Gorge this year. I know that there are several other bands that they've announced that will be there, and they're just not coming to me right now. Again, that's always such a big thing. Is
Bella Fleck, I think.
Oh yeah.
Amazing, and the Fleck tones, amazing.
Yeah.
Someone else that's trying to come to mind.
And surely I would think Jeff, since he was in that band before Dave Matthews Band, I'm thinking just, of course, he'll come out and play with
You would
them.
think so. I would like to think that.
So.
Yeah, I would like to think that too, which would be great. Definitely. I mean, I think there's a band I've been listening to recently. I think Dave's quite a big fan of it. I think they have done the Gorge too, which was Mount Joy.
Yes.
Love Mount Joy.
Oh, I have some friends that love Mount Joy. It's like their favorite. And of course, they were introduced by the Dave Matthews Band.
That's right.
He does pull out a lot of talent.
Yeah, he does. I mean, you can go back to like guys like Jason Mraz and stuff years ago, who was at a Gorge that like Dave kind of like pulled him out of the crowd or something like that.
I just watched the movie. What is it about the Gorge? It's called Ginormous or Gorge Normus. What is that? Do you know what movie I'm talking about?
Is that the kind of like fan made one?
I don't know. It's just about the Gorge and like how the land was bought by this couple and eventually they sold to Live Nation and just how it all began. And it's a beautiful story. Of course, it talks about all the different bands going out there, but of course, it mentions the Dave Matthews Band a lot because Dave has had his own named weekend for years. Like it's Labor Dave weekend every year at the Gorge, and to have that standing spot means a lot. But yeah, I saw in that video or in that documentary, they actually had Jason Mraz on, and they had footage from someone that recorded Dave.
That would have been crazy.
Yeah, I can't even imagine how cool that would have been. But he said also in that same documentary, like, I used to be able to ride my bicycle around here and no one would bother me, but now I can't do that.
Yeah, can't really.
We know who you are, even with a hat on, dude. Like, we got you.
We definitely pick you out of the crowd. You know what I mean? But yeah, like I said, he's got this effect. I mean, even when you hear other artists talk about him, and talk about the band and how big an influence. Like, I'm a big John Mayer fan. He can't sing Dave praise high enough. How there's such a huge influence on him and his sound, being kind of a young musician and coming out with music. And then obviously they did a gig together a couple of months ago for like the wildfires, was it?
Yes.
So they did like a little gig together and stuff like that, which, like I said, he's got this kind of almost like a group or a huge following of musicians that are standing on his shoulders.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Influences with, from, like you said, from like 34 years of doing what he does, what pulls us all in and makes us come back every single year.
Yeah. Sometimes I think about the weight of that, like the weight of what that must feel like on your shoulders, because not only do you have like these musicians who give you so much credit for their own beginning, but then you've got the fans and how highly we hold them up and how desperate we are for knowing like that they're going to come out the next year and the next year, because with this long of we don't know we don't know if they'll keep going. But what a way, and to also have, like, I know that Dave thinks, or at least they think about their crew, their staff, their truck drivers, all of the people that depend on this band so much. The weight of that has to be so heavy.
You've got to think it's got to take its toll.
Yeah.
But you would never know watching them live.
Oh gosh, no,
live,
never.
It's always just pure raw energy.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be emotional. Sometimes it can be. I love the Dave chat.
Me too.
Kind of like off the cuff, and so off the cuff, and so. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes you can be somewhat political, which I understand, because America's such this huge thing, which I can't really relate to that.
Of course.
But even then, it's generally for a good cause, or there's a good reason behind why he's doing it.
Right.
There's nothing malicious or negative really that people are going to have their opinions, of course, but there's nothing really ever negative or really negative about what he's saying. It's all just Dave chat, you know what I mean? And he's like I said, he's such a talented guy, and like I said, it's been a huge part of my life for over a decade now, and another decade to come, where, like I said,
we can only hope.
Hopefully. I think that's what my buddy, he kind of says to me. He was like, they've been gigging at the time, I think, for like 26 or 27 years. Not a lot of bands do that. Keep going every year, do it that long. And I'm like, are you trying to scare me? because it's fucking working, you know? It's like,
I
I gotta go.
know.
You want me to
It's
buy
that
a gold?
other subject that we don't
Yeah,
talk about
yeah,
is
for
like the
sure.
end, right? Because we don't want to jinx it or
No
whatever.
way.
But also like I have to prepare my heart and my mind for that scenario where like they don't go back out that next year. What do I do with my time? How do I go see my people? Like, yeah, I can go see them, but like there's not going to be this one spot where everyone's at. And
Everyone knows.
so it
Yeah,
just changes our lives so much.
yeah.
And, we'll always have the music and I'm so thankful for
Couch
that.
tour.
But yeah, there's couch tour. Thank God for that because we can be at every show everywhere, all
Yeah.
over the
The
world,
fans
getting
are
drunk
so
at 8
cool for
a.m.
doing that. Absolutely so amazing for that. And I can be like, there's guys on the rail streaming it, and I'm 5,000 miles away, and I've got it on the big TV, and I'm jamming out. I'm like, this
Yes.
is great. You know what I mean? I'm there, and that
Yes.
I'm people might find that a little bit sad, but I'm like I say to my friend all the time, I'm like, you're lucky because like, I mean, you could physically go there. It'd take you a couple of hours to get there if you really wanted to. It took me
Mm-hmm.
15 and like
Right.
$2,000. You know what I mean? So it's I love the couch tour because it gives fans like me that are you know potentially overseas or even on the other side of the country
Right.
this kind of feeling of being there. And like I said, some guys are on the rail. Some guys, I mean, I like to think like we've got this amazing spot on the lawn at the Gorge where you can. It's like just over the first hill, so you can see the stage behind it, and then you can see the boats and stuff pull up behind when it goes to kind of like nightfall. It's so gorgeous, and
It really is.
it's unbelievable. And even just having that almost setting, you can see. I mean, the first year I went, they had the drone show, which
Oh
was
yeah. I just saw that
unbelievable.
in pictures and videos, but
Nobody expected it.
amazing.
Yeah, nobody expected that. I think I've got a picture uh, printed out of it.
I was so jealous that I wasn't there and they haven't done it since.
I know.
So
I feel
cool.
so lucky. I feel so
So
lucky
good.
to like have that memory with, seeing the band live to that just nobody expected it.
Right.
It was amazing. But yeah, like I said, I just feel so lucky to be part of this thing that
Yeah.
when you're there, it's really hard to describe because it's found me all the way over like 5,000 miles away. But no, I'm a huge advocate for the fans for the music. I try and push. I don't push Dave. I always feel like people will find things for themselves, and that's how they'll really get into it.
Right.
I remember I used to tell my older brother for years, you need to listen to Dave. You need to listen to John Mayer. And then like 2 years later, he'd come to me like, oh, I've been listening to Dave. I'm like, don't start with me with that because you
Right.
didn't do it 2 years ago. So I'm a big believer that people should find things for themselves. And, my favorite song might not be your favorite song and vice versa. But you will definitely find a song, I believe, that grabs you. And when
Yes.
when it's taken you, there's no coming back.
It's true. I mean,
It
I'm
really is.
head over heels and I'm not
Yeah,
stopping.
yeah, and like you said, the Dave fans are hard. They're die hard. I mean, the rock and roll vote is a great example of that, where he won it twice in a row. Everyone's like going on, and it's just a PR thing. It doesn't even count to the total vote, but it's
Right,
like
right.
he like blows the numbers out of the park because people are like, "Yeah, I want Dave to win. I want Dave to win."
Yes, it was like our duty as a
Yeah,
fan to
exactly.
vote.
Yeah, it really was. I remember like first thing I do when I'm at work is like load up the computer, vote for
Yep,
Dave
yep,
every day.
yep.
It's just
I'll never forget the frustration of the first year and us winning the fan vote and then not getting in. I
you're
was
not
like,
getting it. Yeah,
this is bullshit.
that's tough. That is tough. Again, it's just a PR stuff. So I was like, yeah, it doesn't really
Exactly.
count
And
for the
it
vote. But
ended
it's
up
huge.
working out. It
It's
ended up
huge.
working
But
out.
yeah, it was. But yeah, it just shows it how the effect it's got on people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
The pool it has and the effect it has to have people coming from all over the country, from all over the world, to hear and listen to this band, and not only that, to make these connections with other people that you'll never forget.
No. No, truly. I say I've met people from all walks of life from so many places that I would have never probably met these people otherwise. And so many of my relationships, I'm just, I give the band full credit for so much of what I have in my life. And that sounds weird to people for me to give credit to a band, but it is all because of this music that I have so much in my life. And I know that you can agree with that. So thank you so much. I think it's important to continue to show that the voice of the fans of the Dave Matthews Band is truly worldwide. It is not just an American thing.
No, definitely not. Even in Dublin, I found another Scottish guy in Dublin who was a Dave fan. And I'm like, I need your number.
Yeah.
We're going to go to do all the shows, bro. We're going to go continental. We'll go and do everything. So yeah, I got him on Facebook as well. And
awesome.
The first kind of Scottish guy kind of loved Dave is almost, I feel like, as much as I did. And I was like, bro, me and you need to go for a pint or something, we need to have a little Dave talk, for sure.
Meant to be. You can't meet someone from your country or your whatever city and not be friends with them. We're definitely going to be friends.
Yeah.
It's happening.
I was like, I'll see you the next one. You know what I mean? I'll see you the next one. So yeah, and I actually got, I think it was Rachel when she was at the Gorge my first year. I brought 3 huge Scotland flags over with me and there's a Dave selfie with the Scotland flag in it, which was really, really nice.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was awesome. I think I've got that photo somewhere as well, so I can definitely send that to you.
Yes, please.
That was great. She took it I think she got into the pit one night. I think it was the Saturday or the Sunday night. And she got the Dave Scotland flag in the selfie. It was cool.
Wow. Yeah. Send that to me. And so guys, if you're listening to this on a podcast app, just know that you can watch the story. And so you'll be able to see the pictures that Dave has sent in to show his story. So be sure to check out YouTube. It's simply under the Space Between podcast. And if you're listening to this on a podcast app, don't forget to do something really important. Follow the show so you know when a new episode is coming out. We are ramping up for the 2025 season. The first show is just about to happen in New Orleans, Louisiana. So we are so excited to have the boys playing again back in the United States. So follow along, follow the show. Each episode is a different fan sharing their journey. And so we're really excited about sharing this for the rest of the year. So many fans all over the world, just like you and I. And what a cool thing is that music is like the one thing in this whole world that brought us together. I mean, how cool is this that a girl in Arkansas and a guy in Scotland are just sitting here chatting about the same music that they love so much?
Crazy.
It's very crazy. It's awesome,
absolutely
though.
Crazy. And it's beautiful. You know what I mean? It doesn't get old at all.
Not at all. Well, David, hold on. For those of you that are listening, guys, again, just be sure to follow the show and check us out on all of the social medias. Of course, we're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. And so you'll know who your upcoming guests are. But of course, the Space Between podcast is on the road again this year, again, heading to New Orleans soon to watch the band. And then we will be at several other shows around the United States this year with some big missions before us. So before the shows, we've got a few fundraisers that we're doing just to, do a greater good with the time that we have and the platform that I have. I'm so glad to be helping with some nonprofits. And so look for that information across all the socials. And if you're interested in being on the show, here's how easy it is. All you do is message me and go, hey, I'd love to share my Dave story. And that's the only prerequisite is that you have a love for the Dave Matthews Band. So definitely message me on any of the socials and we'll get you scheduled for a show. Dave, thank you so much for sharing your side of the story and for staying up. What time is it where you are right now?
Not too late. It's not too late. It's 7:25 in the evening. So it's not too late.
That's not terrible. We did a good job.
It's not bad.
We did a good job.
Yeah, it's really not bad at all. I was a little bit worried that I wasn't going to be in time, but it's been really good. Thank you so much for having me. I would definitely be checking in. Like I said, I'm a big fan of the show. I love hearing people's stories and their connections and how they found their people and how they found their crews and some of their husbands and wives and all these kind of things that the Dave Matthews Band's done. It's just it's like I said, it's a wonderful thing. And yeah, like I said, and if you don't follow because it's great seeing people's stories and almost being in their kind of community. Again, like you said, this community of people that are just so loving, so giving, and listen to great music.
Yes, absolutely. So guys, again, thank you for listening so much. Dave, hold tight. And in the meantime, guys, peace, love, and Dave Matthews Band.